Hi everyone, Oli here, and this is my review of The Ark. Not to be confused with The Ark in Space, the fourth Doctor story. And The Ark, this story, is the sixth story of season 3 of classic Doctor Who and the 23rd story overall, starring William Hartnell as the first Doctor. It's written by Paul Erickson and Leslie Scott. It is also the last story to be produced by John Wiles, as his replacement, Innes Lloyd, takes over in the next story. Thankfully, all 4 episodes of The Ark survives in full compared to the other stories that happened in Season 3, which have been either entirely missing or completely missing. So the plot of The Ark is as follows. In the final days of Earth, the TARDIS lands on a massive spaceship carrying the last members of the human race to a new home beyond the solar system. The humans are not out of danger, however, as a deadly plague emerges from the unlikely of sources, a common cold carried by the Doctor's companion Dodo. Put on trial for their lives, the TARDIS crew must find a way to repair the damage they have unknowingly caused, and face up to the devastating consequences. So The Ark, in my opinion, is a brilliant episode and definitely one of the best of Season 3. It's also a very underrated story as well. I mean, this story doesn't really get much love in the classic Who fandom, or doesn't really get the acclaim it really deserves. I like how creative the Ark was, and how it was written during a time of uncertainty of us future, of the possible threat of nuclear war, but mainly because of the Cold War escalations between US and Russia. The Ark was also set in the very far future, when Earth was coming to an end, and in this story it is referred to, the time period is referred to the 57th segment of time. But in New Who, when Earth came to an end, it was in the year 5 billion, so let's assume that the year 5 billion is the same as the 57th segment of time. I like how the story is pretty much split into two, where the first half of Dodo's cold causing problems for everyone on the Ark and the whole plague situation, which put her, Stephen and the Doctor, Stephen who actually fell ill because of Dodo's cold, and the Doctor, and who are all on trial. Because their bodies the humans on the spaceship, they weren't really used to the cold, and I'm presuming this is a time where they probably found the common, a common sorry, it's a long day, like a cure for like a common cold and everything like that. So I'm pretty sure their bodies weren't really used to the whole. They probably weren't used to like how to fight a cold, and that's what pretty much caused the problems. And probably because I think it came from the monoids, so it must have like mutated into something bad for the humans. But everything got sorted out in the end of episode 2. But then at the end of episode 2, the Doctor, Stephen, and Dodo returned to the Ark, and just a few years later, and they found out that the monoids have taken over. And then the monoids were obviously the alien servants of the humans at that time, and then they suddenly had a revolution, and then they were pretty much the masters, and the humans are pretty much the slaves. Now, onto the main cast of the story. This is Jackie Lean's first full story as Dodo Chaplet, after making like a mini appearance at the closing minutes of the massacre. Dodo, she actually really impressed me in the story. I had a feeling she was going to be like an annoying character, but thank God she wasn't. I think I'd say Dodo is more of a mix of Vicky and Susan, but she definitely has more Vicky than Susan in her. I mean, I like the chemistry she had of Hartnell. I mean, she's very cheeky, she's very mischievous, she's funny. I think she had a good relationship with Stephen and the Doctor as well, and I like the part when the whole trial was going down, and the Doctor and Dodo were like holding hands with each other just during the whole pandemic. That was actually a very good tense scene, and it definitely shows the Doctor's grandfatherly side, something we haven't really seen in a very long time, considering the fact that the last time we pretty much saw it, I mean, Vicky, she was pretty in with me because Vicky was doing her own thing. Alex Mustafa, the Doctor, was acting a bit grandfatherly to Katerina and to some extent Sarah, and then obviously the massacre, the Doctor disappeared until the end of the episode. And then obviously we have Dodo now. He has someone, and even the Doctor actually been mentioned in the massacre. At the end of the massacre, Susan reminds me. Sorry, Vicky reminds me. What the hell? Dodo reminds me of my granddaughter Susan. And they actually kind of see the similarities. I mean, both of them are quite petite, short hair, short brown hair. Yeah, I can definitely see it. I mean, but Dodo is a bit more hands-on than Susan was. Now, Stephen, he had found that he didn't do a whole lot in the story. I mean, the first half, he actually succumbs to the illness that everyone was catching in the ark, and then he gets better, obviously, and then he leaves the doctor and Dodo. They come back, and then while the doctor and Dodo refuses free, Stephen's pretty much captured by the monoid and is renegated to the security kitchen. And tries to like free the humans as well. I mean, the acting was quite good from William Hartnell, and I mean, I like the part where he turned invisible at the end of the story, which leads into the Celestial Toymaker, and the other characters. I think it will take time for them to mention, and all of them. I mean, they are quite good as well. I mean, they're more distinct. I think they're more distinct in the first. The humans are more distinct in the first half, but then the cast changes in the second half of the story, and we don't. I think I've forgotten some of their names. I also like the set design of the arc. That definitely can tell that the production team went all out. I mean, instead of using the stock footage that they usually use, I mean, the Romans, for example, when they got that crappy footage of the lion, but I think they actually got an elephant. They got actual animals like lizards, and I think they got an elephant as well. I think one of the elephants was named Monica. I think in one of the story, and I like the whole camera work in the first part of when in episode 1, the first few minutes, where it was just like filming around everywhere. And I think we see the monoid, and I think from his perspective, how he was looking at everywhere, just seeing the whole scenery, and then suddenly the TARDIS lands, and then Dodo comes out, and then sneezes. And I also liked the statue. I think they were trying to build the statue of the commander in episode 1 or something like that. I can't really remember. And then the end of episode 2, and that statue was actually finished, but then it turned out to be a statue of the monoid. I mean, that was a very good twist. I mean, and the music as well. I mean, I think the music that was used in this episode was using the Daleks, but then it actually suited the arc a lot more, and I think I like the wah wah wah. And I really enjoyed it. I think that's one of the things that made me enjoy the arc a lot more. I mean, I think the camera work and now in that episode 1 scene was very good, and episode 2 when they're just revealing that the statue was actually the monument, that was actually brilliant. I mean, the camera work was brilliant, and then I think the direction by Michael Emerson was very good as well. I mean, I'm not sure if he came back to Doctor Who, but I'll have to double check if he did. I mean, the movie was a very good. The direction was very good. Now onto the side characters. I mean, I'm talking about mainly the first part of the episode of the story. I liked them. I mean, I liked the Ark's commander who wasn't actually given a name. I think he was actually credited as commander, and then his daughter Milium, I think she was quite good as well. I mean, I liked how she was. It was pretty much like something like the Doctor and his granddaughter Susan, or well, granddaughter figure. I mean, I actually liked the whole relationship with them and how he fell ill, and then the daughter was looking after him. And I liked the guy that was acting as the Doctor Solicitor. I think his name was Maniac. I mean, he was a very good story. I think he was a good ally to the Doctor, Stephen, and Dodo. I mean, that was quite good. I mean, those are all from the good. That was all the good side characters from the first story. I mean, the side characters from the second half, they're not really as memorable as the first ones were. I mean, I think the only memorable ones were the monoids, which I'll get to in a bit, and the Refusions, who we actually hear, but we don't actually see them. I mean, we hear their voices. I don't know if they ran out of the budget, there's a budget ran out or something, but it did give them a good sense of mystery. I mean, I'll get to them in a bit. So, let's get to the monoids. I think they were very good villains. I mean, I like the twist where they turned on the humans and became their masters. I mean, it was pretty inevitable, and I think I actually wish they did include some point in the story when I remember when the Doctor was talking to one of the monoids in episode 2, saying, "You're quite as smart as you're smart as you look." I mean, I have a feeling that might have triggered the whole monoid revolution, but I wish that was at least brought up in in this story. I mean, the Doctor wouldn't just like say it as if it was nothing. Maybe was some sort of foreshadowing of the monoids becoming evil. I mean, yeah, I mean, it pretty much was, but I think they should have at least mentioned that. I mean, saying maybe had one of the monoids say to the Doctor, you know, you're the one who like lit the spark for our resolution. You're our hero or something like that. I mean, but not on more of the monoids. I mean, I'm quite glad that they're more diminishable than other monsters. I mean, I think the monoids had monoid number 1, monoid number 2 on their colors compared to. I think this is one of the problems I had with the Sensorites. I remember that when I was doing that review and I was watching that. I mean, they weren't distinguishable at all, apart from the elder Sensorites. I think they had sashes. I mean, even them, they were quite indistinguishable as well because I think there were like 3 elders. I know one of them was evil. It was quite hard to tell which one was good, which one was bad. But in the case of the monoids, they were all quite evil at one towards the second half of the stories. Okay, now the other nitpicks I have with the arc. I mean, I didn't like how the refusions were invisible. Yeah, yes, it made them more mysterious. I mentioned that a few seconds ago, but how they're invisible, it looked low budget. I mean, I wasn't really convinced. I mean, were they giants? Were they gods or what? But they were tangible. I mean, they were able to touch stuff. I mean, I think one of them entered the spaceship and went back to the Ark and disposed of the bomb that was going to destroy the Ark. I mean, yeah, that was good. I mean, and also I think the part when the Doctor and Dodo refuses free with the Moon I think that kind of dragged a bit. I mean, I was getting a little bored, but but the Ark is still enjoyable. I mean, it is definitely a very underrated and definitely one of the best stories of season 3. And I think I definitely recommend those who want to get into the Hartnell era. I mean, I would give the Ark a 9.5 out of 10. I mean, if they brushed up on more of these things, or even if the Ark was made a 6-parter, I mean, there were some parts that were like I thought should have been in the story. I mean, if it was a 5-part or even a 6-part, I think and given if the pacing was well, I mean, the pacing was well done in the Ark. I mean, it would have probably been a 10 out of 10 in my opinion. So, my next review is the Celestial Toymaker, another missing episode. So, after seeing all 4 of these survive, we are now down to missing episodes. But thank God, I mean, we do have episode 4 existing, so I have an idea of what the story actually looked like, including the Celestial Toymaker, aside from promotional pictures. So thank you for watching my review. Let me know what you thought of the Ark and what you thought of this review. Subscribe to my channel, like my videos as well. I'd really appreciate it. So this is Oli. See you later.